I'm waiting for Andy.
No widget errors?
Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. All right.
Hey, can I have your wallet?
All righty. I'm gonna do the payroll, 2021 payroll check registry. I'm just gonna read these two. There's two. Stephen Forza is 24 cents, and Jared Wright Ward is $29.16. I'm assuming that's just reconciling.
So that was reconciling taxes that they paid that they shouldn't have paid.
Oh,
That's
okay.
refunding back FICA taxes.
All right, and then this one is James Saltzman, 158.32.
So that's the regular payroll.
That's regular for 2020. Alrighty, because it's dry out. Sorry, guys. Need chapstick for my fingers to flip these things. Alright, Andrea Bickham, 631.28. Karen Clements, $1,101.98. Daphne Ross is $714.51. Katie Coppola is $74.34. Shayla Gherkin is $52.64. Mary Lyons Hall is $199.48. Janice Weirs is $782.99. Kiki Donis Walls is $687.46. Kip Kaiser $783.77. Andrew Gray is $516.51. Jason Gagnon is $83.11. Kaden Blazek Ahern is $601.60. Jeffrey Collins is $672.13. Wayne Robinson is $956.78. Kendra Brackett is $534.52. Robert Gagnon is $354.91. Matthew Kelly is $1,074.17. Kevin Nealand is $346.73. Kiera Norris is $296.65. Richard Sawyer is $1,740.14. Christopher Spitaleri is $1,345.39. Josh Turner is $578.75. Jeremy Worcester is $982.05. Sorry, double up there. Jared Wright Ward is $847.54.
What was it? Okay, good, I got it.
Is that right?
Yep.
Joseph Bird is $933.63. John Bryan, this must be out of order, $713.65. Evan Crafts is $380.11. Keith Culligan is $789.13. Alyssa Sanuski is $538.17. Alexander Hall is $197.77. Timothy Levante is $288.14. Katrina Tennant is $770.48. Trevor Whitby is $727.19, and Joyce Kiesel is $482.03.
For a total of $21,779.73.
For a grand total of $21,938.05.
You didn't have the update a couple weeks ago? It's no longer alphabetical, it's how it's inputted.
Okay.
That way the library gets all together now,
All right.
makes it nice.
Makes it easier. So we have a couple voids. $1,472.73 voided and then reissued, and that was for the Brentwood newsletter fund.
I used the wrong vendor number.
Okay.
We had 3 hours of overtime in the PD, 26 in the fire
Should be
department,
2011 and 2021 and 2022.
22 is this one.
and 26.5 in the highway department.
Okay, so this is 2022's. Amazon Capital Services is $209.95. Donovan Equipment Company is $338.86. E&J Auto Parts is $85.19. Teresa Frank is $60 even. Hartman Oil is $1,786.68. Interware Development Company is $175. Legend Software is $333 even. McFarland Ford Sales is $1,816.95. Morton Salt is $8,847.06. rock solid CCTV and access is $120. State of New Hampshire Department of Safety is $48.25. Suburban propane is $265.81. Uniforce Corporation is $57.19. And United Construction and Forestry is $51.47. Valak is $186.45. WB Mason is $167.90.
For a total of $14,549.76.
This is another
Yep.
couple voids from 2021. One was Hartman Oil for $1,037.32. Another one was City Mortgage for $788.42.
And then the corrective text right here in your hand.
Those are the
Those
corrected
are
ones.
the ones to the issue,
Oh,
for
okay,
the citizens credit card and for Hartman.
okay. It's corrected.
The first check, for whatever reason, only pulled in 2 of the Hartman tickets instead of all 11.
Okay. So this is for 2021. RJ Hardware is $119.99. C&M Cleaning is $1,770.01. Doug Cowie is $141.35. E&J Auto Parts is $128.40. Great American Finance Service Corp is $348.80. JP Pest Services is $188.70. Paul McFarland is $52.73. Mitchell Municipal Group is $1,232.10. North of Boston Media Group is $163.01. Southeast Land Trust is $2,581.49. Suburban Propane is $423.91. TransUnion Risk and Alternative Data Solutions is $100 even. UniFirst Corporation is $57.19.
For a total of $7,307.68.
We have 3 rec checks.
I have building permit, but you should do this one first.
I got an official sign too.
Yeah, you see that sign it and put it to the copier, I forgot to do
Yeah.
that.
Okay, Joyce, you're on.
Okay. Treasurer's report, 1/18/2022. Previous balance, $6,928,608.57. Deposits were $97,791.04. The payroll was $21,938.05. Payroll tax was $5,552.79. JP was $16,022.49. The account balance stands at $6,982,886.28.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good week. I'll make a motion for the
You
minutes.
just need that Teresa.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Janice is gonna pick it up.
Second.
All in favor?
Teresa,
Aye.
sign the check.
Abstain.
Who's the other guy?
We had a motion for the minutes approved. Andy abstained.
The Scotty Family Trust, 36 Long Meadow Drive, electric HVAC. Brian Sullivan, 11 James Circle, electrical permit for basement. Adam Rowerdink, 5 Wendell Drive, plumbing for bathroom remodel. 3 Ponds LLC, we have 53 Ponds Drive and 31 3 Ponds Drive for new dwellings.
What was the last one?
31 3 Ponds Drive,
For what?
new dwelling. These are the first permits for phase 2.
How many dwellings do we have in phase two, do we know?
I think there's, what, 51?
Wow.
The total is gonna be hundred
So
and
there's
seventeen.
51 more to go.
Yep.
Okay. It already looks pretty good when you go through that.
Yeah.
51 more is gonna be really great.
You wanna do Wayne? Wayne, you wanna come forward? You think it's cold in here, huh? That was last week, Wayne.
This week too.
Briefly.
It's warm enough.
We're doing Wayne's warrant articles, starting with the road repair, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $350,000 for the purpose of the public road repair and maintenance.
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The second one is a fund highway
Oh,
vehicle.
sorry.
To go back on the road repair, so is that to include the BRC or not to include the BRC? 'Cause
We had this discussion last weekend, you weren't here. I believe it was, Bob thought it was okay, and the rest of us were unsure. In the 350,000 that he's requesting,
I don't think it's okay,
you don't think it's okay? All
because
right.
it says road repairs.
But is it the rec center still the road?
No.
And then the other discussion we had was potentially seeing what the rec contribute to that, I guess. If we wanted
Yeah,
to
well-
do a warrant article under the rec for the,
Right,
because that's basically how we'd have to do it, right?
right, yeah.
So I have a far out question.
Far out,
Far out. The Bell and Flynn proposal was updated 11/17/21. Can we encumber it? Out of the highway budget?
Do we have enough?
Wayne has like 300,000 in the highway budget, I think.
can we encumber it?
So take it off of, instead of doing the warrant article, just encumber?
Yes, and not do a winter fund maintenance warrant article.
You good with that?
Is it legal? Can we do it?
Yes, it's legal. It's just whether or not, which way you wanna go.
okay, let's hear your motion, then we'll go from there.
So I guess it depends on how much money do we have left to encumber. If you're saying not do the road repair,
No.
or just that
The
one?
winter maintenance.
I got the budget over there, Karen. So instead of doing this
Number four.
snow and ice control warrant article,
Okay.
just encumbering the money we need,
That was 50,000, right?
Yeah,
it was like 89.
no, you,
Number 4,
Oh, yeah, but we need 89
89 for the rec.
for the rec. Snow and ice has 189,000 left in it.
So if we took the 50 plus
The total
82.
89 and encumber it
From the 300.
from the 300. The paving would get done with 2021 money. And then the 350,000 for the 2022 warrant article would all go to roads.
right, okay.
I
But,
like that, so
but
then you get rid of number 4 too.
Yep.
So it would be 82, because that's a revised estimate.
Right,
82.
so first question, what is that 300,000 that we're encumbering off of intended, what was it intended to be used for? I know it's 2021 money,
It
but,
would go back into the general fund to offset taxes.
okay. And then,
And it wasn't 300, it was 100 and,
189,000.
189.
okay. And then,
The 350 would stand, that's for normal yearly maintenance and road repair.
but if if Wayne was going to, I guess this question might be two-thirds directed at Wayne. If the 350 was going to go, and we were gonna take 82 out of that 350, do we still need the full 350? I don't have a problem if the answer is yes, but
typically we don't have enough for the roads.
Yeah.
So, like, I know Jeff Bryant brought it up when he was on the board, said we could probably do 450 and still not have enough to do all our roads. But the only reason.
Well, I just would like to know
Yeah.
a plan, like, okay, what are we gonna do with the money if we're gonna raise it?
Wayne?
Wayne's gonna talk.
Yeah,
Hey, before you vote on this, I have one big problem. Okay? Not yesterday's storm, but last week's storm. The truck, the 2006 dump truck, we was out during the night and we was out sanding. And, he used the side delivery, the side dump, brought it up on the truck. And when he brought it up, something happened to the side dump. It collapsed, it bent the whole underneath of the body. I had to take it to Charlie Starkey because the tailgate was lopsided and I took it to Charlie to see what he could do with it. Charlie fixed it so the tailgate comes down straight now and comes in, but he can't fix the underneath the truck. He said the body is gonna have to be changed. We've been using the truck the last two storms. We closed the body on it, locked it, and we have been loading it, and we have been using we don't use the side dump because something went wrong with the side dump. It pulled the hole underneath. When it come up, it pulled the hole underneath. I've looked around to, find out what it would cost to put on another body similar to that. That's an MG body that's on the truck. And I got an estimate here from Donovan Springs. I got an estimate for Donovan Springs to replace the body on that truck, and it was $52,210.
what year is that truck?
2006.
Yeah.
I guess that answers that question.
It does, yeah.
Well, the problem is we can't use any of the money we're talking about for that repair.
That truck, right. It has to come out of the truck maintenance or equipment maintenance.
And we can't encumber it because it's a new,
That's right. So that's a new problem.
I love problems.
Yeah, this is a whole new problem.
I'm sorry?
But
So
now-
that winter maintenance line item is gonna have to be changed to truck
Something.
maintenance?
But now.
The question is the truck worth repairing?
Well,
Yeah, for $50,000, I mean, how much is the truck worth at 2006? I mean, that's still a 16-year-old vehicle.
yeah, but it's only, if, those trucks, when all them international trucks are only good for about 20 years. Cause they use them for salt and
Yeah, right.
all that kind of stuff.
So right now, that's 16 years old.
Right, that's 16 years old, so that's something, I mean, the truck runs good. Runs good. The only problem we ever had with that truck was put a turbo. We put two turbos in that truck. One, I didn't even get it back from the company that we bought it from, and they had put a new turbo in there, then as the years went on, we had to put in another one. Other than that, the truck runs good. Actually, the probably the best running truck we got down there now.
Well, your new one just shuts off and doesn't restart.
Yeah.
How much does a new truck cost?
To get a new truck to what we got right now, we was thinking about that, but to get a new.
Preferably one that wouldn't just shut off.
It'd be over $200,000
I mean, you're
for a brand new truck with the same kind of bodies that we have right now.
50,000, I mean,
50,000.
versus for a
Because if it lasts for
16-year-old
20 years,
well, if the engine runs right and you put a new body on it, you're gonna be as long as the engine's good.
Are we gonna get,
how's the frame?
Now, he didn't mention, is there any damage to the frame?
Well, if you're putting
No.
salt on
No.
it, how
No.
rusted is it?
Everything.
But we had,
They paint those.
Yeah.
We have it scraped and or sprayed and whatever it is.
did we take them
Sandblasted.
over to Epping and have them all done? The bodies?
We had them painted.
are we gonna get 10 years out of putting $50,000 into it? Like how much time are we gonna get out of putting 50 grand into it with the new body?
I don't know, that's long, you know.
2 years,
long-
10 years?
The
I mean,
running. the
Simple
running-
math to me is if it costs $200,000 to replace this vehicle, and it has a 20-year shelf life, that means it's costing you about $10,000 every year. I got 4 years left.
Right.
that means it's worth about $40,000. You're gonna put $50,000 into it, it's only worth 40,000, so it's kind of like, at what
That's-
point do you go,
But at market value, is it only worth 40,000 right now?
probably only worth 20?
Well, considering you can't get vehicles and cars and.
Well, the ones we get don't start. So,
That's what I mean.
that's the other problem.
Now, there's another thing that, we, that I can do with this truck. We can, hopefully we can make it through the rest of this winter. I can take that, leave that on there instead of switching it around, but when winter comes by. I have the 2001 truck. Right now, that truck's running good.
Okay,
That truck, we had it fixed up and it's running good, and that's got almost a brand new body on it, it will probably go right on that truck. We can take that body off and put it on that truck.
okay.
And that will get us through whatever, that body should get us through the
4 years or
4
5
years.
years or
the
whatever.
4 years of that when we can just keep
Okay.
going. Right now, I'm just using, I just got it back today, actually, and they said the truck is running really good.
I just think
Yeah,
putting
and the body-
$50,000 into it, I don't think it's gonna be
Yeah,
worth it.
I would agree with that.
I mean, I can use one of the other trucks
Okay.
if something happens to.
So
get
there's gonna
through,
be a cost to switch the
and
bodies.
we can wait down the road and see what we wanna do with that and different trucks.
Okay.
Now, like I've been saying, this ain't, I got the 2006, I got the the 2006 truck, 235 truck. Them are smaller trucks. I got two small trucks, a 550. They got over 100,000 miles on the motors, and those trucks there are gonna have to be replaced as well. So we got like almost 4 trucks that we're gonna have to replace, and whether the planning board, the CPI,
That's $800,000.
yeah.
I wonder if there's any grants out
So,
there.
well, look, we're not just looking at this one truck, we've had these trucks for quite some time, and now they're getting to the point, then they're costing us, because they're breaking down. Every time we go out with them, something breaks when we've been fixing.
Yeah, but even your new truck you got doesn't even,
Even the new truck, you don't even wanna buy a new truck right now, because those trucks, they don't run, to begin with. Let me tell you. they
So
don't-
can we look at a capital reserve then?
we have
Cons-
capital reserve, how much do we have in that money now?
We're looking to increase it by 50,000.
We just bought the truck, so there can't be much in
It's
there.
gotta be
No.
dwindled down, yeah.
You're right.
Well, I'm saying, if we're gonna nix the winter maintenance, can we pull that in?
It's 111.
And-
Okay.
And we need 800.
So you're thinking for the rec, 82, and then doing the 50 for the winter maintenance, so 132,000 you're covering, is that what you're thinking of?
No,
Or you're just
winter
thinking
maintenance
82?
can't be covered,
So you're just thinking about doing 82,000?
yes.
I'd make a motion to encumber the 82,000
To cover the cost of the wreck.
to take care of the rec.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So at least that'll be paid for. And done.
So,
So,
so we don't need the winter maintenance, or do we still need the winter maintenance?
I don't think we need the winter maintenance.
what do you think?
No,
Okay,
So then can we make, so then,
I don't think, I can always,
We need to go back to 2 for,
We still have to do
So-
one, we pass that, do we?
yes, we passed
did?
one.
yeah, one is passed.
well, it has to do with the whole thing that we were talking about. So
Right.
the winter, I only asked about the winter maintenance, because I'm saying, can we, instead of changing the final amount that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's deleted.
Can we take that and put that into the CapEx, or the capital reserve
So
for,
do 100,000 versus 50?
we need, if we're gonna need 800 grand, I mean, 100 grand is not getting us very far, and there's only 100 grand in there, so, yeah, yes, that's my idea.
So do we have a motion
Well, what are your thoughts?
to increase the
For the
fund
vehicles?
by 100,000 instead of 50?
Truck fund,
the truck fund, yeah, 'cause we're gonna need trucks.
Okay,
And
Sooner
that,
than later?
I just don't wanna see all that fall on everybody all at once. I mean, that's the way it's looking.
I think that was a motion by John.
Made a motion.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Clarify the motion for us, please.
The motion, as it stands, is that number 2, the CRF highway vehicles and equipment warrant article, we're raising that from $50,000 to $100,000 to be added to the existing highway vehicles, equipment, and capital reserve fund.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Is that new 50 coming from unassigned fund balance, or is that new tax?
New tax.
New taxes, but with the it's not relevant right now, but number 4 is gone.
Yep.
Yeah, so 4 is off the table.
And then number 3, repair town bridges, do you wanna wait and table that till next week, cause you'll have your bid opening next week?
Right.
I did talk to Bob Stevens earlier today, because he called me about the bridge. He actually would like to have us not do it next week, the week after, because he didn't get any responses to the bids, so he reached out to like 10 companies and said, can we get some bids on these? Because we got 0. So he would like to at least leave the opportunity for them to respond for
But that's-
another week.
What's the final date on the warrant articles?
2/1, so you'd have to open the bids on that following meeting and then decide if you need to fund this warrant article on that same night.
Right.
You wanna do that, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's delayed for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All right.
So we have to do number 1 though, right?
He did one.
We did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 1 is passed.
Yeah,
Yeah, number 1, 350.
And then we're skipping 4.
Number 2 is gonna be for 100,000. We encumbered $82,000 because the proposal came in for last year to take care of the rep.
right.
Okay,
Anything else, Wayne?
no, that's all.
You and Joe figuring out a place for the sign?
We talked about it, we haven't got together since I saw you last.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Can you put that on the chair?
Yeah. You need to flip back over and I assume you're saving space, right?
I was just, sure.
You're doing your part.
I was just flipping things to find the budget.
Yes.
This is my copy. This is the original for Ken's signature. This is the document that the state requires the form to fill out to place the Historical Society building on the state register.
Got it.
Everyone have a copy? Okay. May I sit here, Wayne?
Sure.
Okay. If you look through the documentation, you see that the gentleman that we worked with to fill out the form with the appropriate information was quite thorough. This has gone through 2 reviews by the board at the Historical Society. The state has looked at a preliminary, approved it. We need your signature, Ken, because the town is the owner of the property, so you need to sign that original on the front.
Okay,
And it should be faxed, Karen, or scanned and sent to the Division of Historical Resources tomorrow. The deadline is January 22. So if you could do that
Make a
after
motion?
Ken's signature.
Second?
we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Alright.
Aye.
Are there any questions about the documentation?
So basically, this is gonna allow it to be put on the registry, and then
Yes,
you
it
guys
is.
would be able to apply for
Grants.
grants and stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
Signed already.
Okay, and I would like an original of the signed copy for our files as well.
Okay,
Okay, I don't know what the decision timeframe is. I know the committee meets at the end of January, and they will notify us if we get on the register, if the building is added to the register,
Be
we're going
interesting
to
meeting.
design a plaque to put on it similar to what's on the former Schmalzer's house and on the Pilgrim Church.
sure.
Okay, this will open up possibilities for Moose Plate grant or money from the state for renovations to the building or improvements.
Oh, good, good.
Because down the road, that building is going to need some work, especially since we are the only town building without water and sewer.
Yes, and you remind us each year.
I remind you each year.
And we just go to this fax number here?
Yes, and directed to Megan Rucknick. That's
Okay.
the woman who's,
So,
And then I'm assuming
coordinator.
you want this top box check?
please look at my property, yes.
thank you very much.
Okay. I think this shows the determination and the value that volunteer work accomplishes for this town. This could not have been done by the town without the hours put in by volunteers, and I think that needs to be acknowledged in the minutes.
Okay, we appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Spend a little time reading that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Looks like.
Send this while you're signing stuff? That's the state license for the mosquito spray, the annual license.
Make a motion?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Only you want signature?
Yes.
Yes.
Chief Berg? Good evening to you, sir.
Talked about that last week.
I guess I'm sitting here looking for some guidance.
Yes, so last week, we went to the budget committee to talk to them about approving the budget as we proposed. They would like to have a warrant article for the 2 new officers, and I think Karen is gonna look at taking out
Firefighters.
the firefighters, I'm sorry. Taking out the benefits and everything else out of the budget, so we can have those all done, so they didn't vote on insurance, they didn't vote on the benefits, and, the budget.
So we have to reopen Joe's budget.
So I have to reopen that, but I guess we just need to have the chief talk to it, to say what the new numbers are, and kind of go from there.
I have not totaled it together. The as-is budget was, which I've handed everybody before. Oop, wait a minute, wrong one. Don't want to hand you that one again, I'll get you on that for that one. Be ducking bullets from that one. Just want to pass them down. So, the top half is the status quo, 2 full-time people, 12 hours a day. The pay matrix figured in, and that came to the 705, 718, which is a $244,000 increase, a little over 245. Total budget, with everything else added, the electric, the heat, and so on, comes to $804,994.14.
But this is the same position, so we're
No, this
increasing
is
salary by
this-
100,000?
Yeah.
So you're,
This is- Yeah, you added the pay matrix in,
And we took some of the, call stipend out
out
of,
of it. You
out of
call,
the ambulance
we
budget.
took the ambulance fund call stipend out and put it into this, and we increased that to $100 a night, if you remember
Right.
correctly. We took it out of her budget.
okay,
put
put
it
it
in
into this
line,
budget. How
and
much
then
was
we
that
took-
roughly?
I don't off the top of my head have that number in front of me. It went to, from a $40 a night type of thing, and if you did X amount, it went up another $20. We did cover 8, and then it was a little more on the weekends.
The monthly payrolls were running about 6,500 when we were at 30 and 40, so.
And then that included Katarina as a full-time position too.
So if it's $100 a night, that's,
And that's good.
$6,500, that would be 78,000
yeah.
right there of the 96, so. Okay,
And then we took we took the training line out of her item too. We had a training line in her, she was paying for the EMS training night, and we pulled the
So it's
EMS
14
training
grand.
night out of that.
Yeah. So, give me a second.
Any more questions for Joe?
And then, I'm
The
just
grand total at the bottom is the grand total with everything else included.
electrical radios.
Electric, radios, the increase in fuel, the increase in vehicle repairs. Because right now, the vehicle repairs are eating me alive the same way they're eating Wayne alive.
Do you have one of your ambulances back?
I got them both back,
You got a, okay.
got them both back.
Yeah, that's a lot, huh? So you increased in,
Well, I got almost $20,000 into that other one.
29,000.
Well, it's not all in that one, but the majority of it went to that one.
Is electric up that much?
Yes.
Yeah, my electric bill this month was $262.
Really?
Yeah.
Turn the lights off.
Well, I can't see in the dark, Joe.
It's probably a good thing.
But that's,
It's probably a good thing.
He needs a
I
bat,
didn't
he
even
needs
have
a,
to do
he
that
needs a
for-
solar light
Yeah.
flashlight.
Okay.
Don't go to sleep with them on.
When it gets dark out, go to bed.
Exactly. Okay, so that's the overall budget. And then to,
I'm gonna give you a spelling check.
no,
Subscriptions,
huh?
due subscriptions,
No, okay, so,
just cause I feel like throwing it out there, I'm like.
he's making up words like I do.
yep.
That's pretty funny.
I just looked at that, I'm like.
Yeah, but
So-
nobody understood your word.
So
And
that
nobody
was,
would have unless you said-
that's the budget status quo.
Okay, so,
So 804,994.14.
That's
Right.
status quo.
okay,
To add the 2 full-time people in, go to the 24-hour shifts that we're not on now. So it's 2 full-time people plus the extra 12 hours for the other 2 guys. Would be a $91,183.91 increase.
Is that with
Yes.
benefits and everything?
No,
No,
No.
she'd have to add the dentist.
Did you, were you able to reduce the 2 budgets?
Yes, so if you pull out the full-time firefighters out of the benefits budget, then the benefits budget is reduced from 364,532
May
to
I ask that, so we can hear you?
332,130. Actually, 131, because you're gonna have to round up the change. And then you'll need to add back in $24,025 into the warrant article, if that's the direction you go.
24,000, what is it?
24,025. So you're reducing it by 32,000 and putting back in 24. The difference is in my, when I built this originally, I had built them in as 8 months. It's only
Okay.
good for 6 if you're gonna go with the warrant article.
3.91 plus 24,025. So that would be 115,208.91.
So where'd you get the 91?
why don't we wait and let Karen and Joe get together and come up with the right numbers for the warrant article and
And do it all together?
do it
Yeah,
all together?
I like that approach.
Okay, so that way we'll have,
Instead of playing with numbers on our phones and in our heads and,
okay.
so it looks like we'll see you next week, Joe?
I just might as well take up a permanent seat here. I'll fit with
Then
I
we-
mean, as long as,
The only
No,
thing
I
you gotta
agree with
figure
you.
out though is the, cause we are gonna have to push the 2 budgets for the, benefits and insurance.
well, she has those numbers.
With taking out those 2, would you be okay reopening those budgets and pushing those through tonight, or do you wanna wait? 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
we-
the budget committee's gonna wanna vote on some of this
We
stuff.
can do the fire budget tonight of 804,914, and then we can open the benefits budget and amend that.
Okay.
Because Karen already has those,
914.
Karen already has those figures. We just need to make sure that the salary and benefits line in the warrant article is correct before we vote on it.
Right, and would we then take that, those funds and put it towards this? How are we doing that?
So you had 250 in ARPA funds. Do you want to put that towards the warrant article and offset that completely? Or do you want it and only offset like the 180 for the warrant article? Or did you want to use?
Can we use it on the warrant article?
You could use it on the
Then
warrant.
I think my preference is to put it toward the warrant article.
And
'Cause-
not towards the operating budget at all.
well, because that was how we were,
Well, we're only gonna do
Bringing-
segments.
Yeah, so it's only, because it would still,
Well, the original,
I think that would get you one more year on the other side.
it might, yeah. The original ARPA funds we were proposing was 250.
But the first year was only,
Was
250
250.
for the first year.
oh, okay.
It was 100,000 the second and 50 the third.
and that's why I'm thinking if that warrant article comes out to, let's say, 150, because I'm just rough numbers, I'm at 115, maybe doing the 100,000 onto this, and then we know we got 150 to play with over there on the warrant article.
We'll see
Can we
what the
make
warrant
that
article
decision?
number comes up to.
yeah, that's
The
true.
original fire budget was 961,309. So if you
Right.
take that minus 804,995, it's 156,314.
Bob's not far off, yeah.
So that's why I said just wait so we can run the
So
numbers.
that plus 24, you get 180.
Let's look at it when we have the final
Okay.
numbers, so that we're not,
Okay, so we'll table this until next week.
Well, we can vote on the fire
We can vote
budget,
on this.
and we
That's
can
not what-
open the benefits.
The warrant article will be tabled until next week.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion for the 804,994,14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's now do the insurance, I guess.
And then benefits is 332,131.
I move we open the benefits budget.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
The
Make a motion
benefits-
for the 332,131 number.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the insurance.
That's,
Insurance should have been done, that's our liability and workers' comp. So that means that
Okay.
it's-
Okay,
So they have,
that's what that was, health insurance.
so now budget committee can vote on, because they didn't vote on the
Right.
two. Okay.
And then, I'm good if the chief doesn't come next week, if,
Do we get the numbers? I'm fine with that.
yeah,
No, that's fine with me. If you can provide the numbers, then we can make a decision.
Yeah.
So we still have to talk about the chief's request for 50,000 for fire rescue vehicle.
I've updated that. Oh, okay. Go on with what you're doing, and I gotta,
Well, thank you so much, Joe, I appreciate that.
sorry about that, I got something else after that.
Okay,
You haven't put money in the capital reserve for a fire vehicle since 2017 when the old fire station was sold.
Wow, it's been that long.
so
Yes, it has.
he's looking for 50,000. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Where does 50,000 get us, and what is the trajectory that we're on?
Well, we're looking for $1 million at the final end. So this will bring us up to like 200,
You have 168
210.
And we need $1 million?
by 2024.
We need,
And typically they do lease purchases?
Lease
is that what you
purchase.
did?
oh,
We
okay.
did for the last one,
Yeah.
but that's
To
strictly
make
up to
it
you
more
guys.
palatable, you do a lease purchase.
What's the
where you-
lease
You
period?
pay so much.
Yeah.
I
You
don't know.
bring it out whatever you wanna bring it out.
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody smarter than me will sit down and figure that out.
I mean, I know like the solar panels was what, 7 years?
Yeah.
You did on that. Wayne did one for his
loader.
loader. We did a lease purchase on that, just because it makes it more palatable.
Yeah.
And then the people paying taxes at that.
So we don't need $1 million in the account?
No,
Okay.
This is kind of like our deposit, you know, like when you go
My
to
blood
buy it.
pressure's coming a little
It's
down
a
a
down
little bit.
payment, basically. Here you go. You got enough to make the payment.
so do we have a motion for the 50,000?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And what is your other item, sir?
My other item is I finally got that grant together,
All right.
through the Gopher grant. The life packs together come to $58,601.54. The way the grant works is you take your 10% off the top of that, so that comes to $5,860.15, leaving $52,741.39. The grant will cover, and that way you get the full 50. So the grant will cover the 50, and that leaves you with a remaining balance on top of the 8,000 I said originally. Or, no, that leaves you a remaining balance of $2,071.39, so I would be looking for town's contribution of $8,601.54 for a $50,000 grant.
Sounds like a deal to me. Your comments or thoughts?
You wanna take that out?
Where do we want it, where does this come out of?
Encumbrance is what he's requesting.
Okay, and that's fine?
Did DRA say that was okay?
That would be okay as long as the dates are 21.
I'll make a motion for the 8,601.54, is it, or
Yep.
51?
54.
Second.
All in favor?
So we can have a copy of that.
Sure. Actually, give you the whole package.
And then if the grant doesn't get approved, then
The money just goes.
Keep the
it
money,
comes
but
back. Okay.
this is one that Sunudu come up with, and from what I've heard, it's, you submit it, you got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything back on the radios? That was huge.
No,
You guys do it.
there'll be April, May before I'll hear anything on that one.
Okay.
But that,
Because that was a big one.
yeah. Hopefully April or May. That is being run through the East Kingston Fire Department,
Oh, okay.
so.
That's the regional plan.
That's the regional one, it's run through theirs, they'll have to keep track of the records, they'll ask us for the records back, and it gets reimbursed, and they keep track of it
Okay.
for the time of the grant. But that should be April or May, we're waiting on that one. All right,
Thank you,
Good.
Joe.
I appreciate
Appreciate your
it,
time.
have a good one.
Thank you.
Drive safe.
Okay.
We're here to discuss the newsletter contract. Do you have anything you'd like to add this evening?
Not really, but I'll give you this memorandum that
Okay.
was prepared, give a copy for everyone. It's a little bit, top page was in addition to what was given last week.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bob, you're the reader.
Yeah, so I
Want
think,
to read this in the record?
yeah, sure, I'll read it. All right. The Board of Selectmen from the Brentwood Newsletter Committee. I'll leave everyone, their names are on it. Brentwood Newsletter Budget Request for 2022, January 18th, 2022. The Brentwood Newsletter BNL Committee respectfully requests $16,200 for the production, printing, and mailing of 11 issues of the Brentwood Newsletter for January through December 2022. Since 1983, fundraising efforts have augmented town funding. However, supplemental revenue is not guaranteed for the coming year. In 2018, the Brentwood Newsletter requested and received a budget of $11,000. In 2019, this request was trimmed to $10,200 and has remained flat and unchanged even as costs have increased. Due to economic factors beyond our control, we anticipate substantial increase in production costs. Postal rates have risen along with the number of recipients of the newsletter. We have adjusted our request accordingly. Recap 2021 was $10,200, 2020 was $10,200, expenses was $14,432 in 2021, and in 2020 it was $13,734. Net results was a negative of $4,332 for 2021 and a negative of $3,534 in 2020. Number of recipients in 2021 was 1,352, and in 2020 it was 1,318. Number of issues was 11 in 2021, and in 2020 there was 12 issues. Average page count was 14 for both years. Number of writers a month, 20. Number of volunteers a year is 128. Estimated annual volunteer hours is 1,158. Brentwood Newsletter is the largest and at 46 years, one of the longest running fully volunteer organizations in Brentwood. All content, layout, production, preparation, and dissemination of the 11 issues continues to be conducted by town residents volunteering their time and talents to the Brentwood Newsletter. Thank you for your continued support of this valuable town resource. And then budget assumptions for projected costs in 2022 operation year. Postage is projected to be $5,000 for fiscal year ending in 12/31/2021. The actual is $4,919. Printing cost projection is $10,600. Actual cost in fiscal year ending in '21 was $9,067. Supplies and expenses was projected $600 for 2022. 2021 end of year was $446. Which brings the total expenses projected for 2022 was $16,200, and their total cost that they had in 2021 was $14,432. Due to the change in timing and uncertainty of town funding, the Brentwood Newsletter can no longer rely on advertising funding to augment operating costs.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Any comments?
Well, we know we approved, and we talked about this last week, we approved for the first 4 issues, I think it was, right? So, 3 issues?
So there's 2550 in the general government budget. And then we just released 1472.73 for the January issue.
How much was it?
1472.73.
So, we'd probably have to reopen what we already allotted.
If you want to fund it in March, you have to reopen the general government budget and increase.
80.73 times 3. So 44, 18, 19. Just round that off. 44, 18 minus 2550. So 1869 is what we have to increase that budget by in order to pay for those 3.
Okay, so let's have a motion to open the general government budget.
I'll make a motion.
Will you have a second? He's checking your numbers.
How many issues do we wanna put out? 3?
3, and they paid $1472.73 for 1 issue. We did a general government $25.50. So if I do $1472.73,
The 2550 was based off of level funding.
right,
Right. So your motion was 1868?
1869.
1869. I rounded it.
So you would increase the general government budget from 31,587 to 33,416.
So it's a dramatic increase. It is putting, now we're saying that the burden is 100% on the taxpayers. There's not even gonna be any offset by any advertising. So that's what this would do.
So last year, I'll just do this.
We did agree to fund it for January, February, and March.
No, I just,
At
instead of
level-
opening the
Level
budget,
funded.
Now, there will be advertising, a surge for advertising, same as in the past, but because there's been some uncertainty in support by the town, if we're not going to be producing the editions, the advertisers are not going to support. And so that's why, so if we do get the funding, which will allow the 11 copies to go forward, we will likely get a similar support in advertising, which was, I think, $3,700 on average
Right.
in the last couple of years. So, and if we have that, then there will be extra money held, which would offset future, support.
Okay.
So the goal is to raise money, but we have to be able to tell the advertisers that we will be producing, you will have your advertising inserts in the editions that is normally given.
Okay.
So the current cost, just so everyone's aware of the numbers, right now they're costing us, well, the last issues that we had for last year for 2021, the 10,200 that we were putting into the budget was 68 cents per subscription, I guess.
Well, the total expenses
It was more than that.
was more than
But
that.
you guys had revenue
We had some
expenses.
revenue
If you're
to
doing the
offset.
16,200, it pushes it up to $1.09 from 68 cents. So it's up.
But we
by-
don't know what their revenue was.
Right, we don't have no idea what the revenue is, or what their anticipated revenue is. We just know that they shelled out 14,432. So I assume the revenue was
The advertising revenue was
4,232.
was around $3,700.
Okay.
So you had a shortfall.
Yeah, we had a shortfall.
So we're still addressing January, February, and March. So to cover those costs, we need to change the budget by $1,869.
So we can just find the money somewhere instead of opening the budget. If we open the budget, then budget committee has to open the budget.
Okay, the hunt is on.
Can we do that? Do we have enough to,
Not in that budget, I mean, I have postage, office supplies. That's our phone contracts.
We could always steal it from the selectmen budget line.
I mean, we could always watch and see and then transfer money from another budget later. I mean, $2,000 in the operating budget. We can find, I don't know if I can absorb it in this one specifically.
I mean, I'm kind of impressed that there's 1,352, since talking to Daphne earlier, there's only 1,800 and some odd, including commercial dwellings. So if you take 1,900 roughly, it's only 600 difference that don't get that.
We have a question.
We're not ready for questions from the public
I have
just
a
yet.
suggestion.
I'm sorry?
I have a suggestion on the money,
You do?
yes.
Are you gonna forfeit your money?
Well, no,
Oh,
Budget committee, which is volunteer.
there is an online version which I found out about during the budget committee. And I looked through the last letter trying to find how to sign up for a PDF version or online version. And there's no information. I was wondering if you could include that. And maybe many people like myself would sign up for an online version, which would in fact reduce the cost because you don't have to print that.
As you know, we don't control the online version of the newsletter.
You don't control the digital version either.
No, I'm addressing what you just suggested.
No, I know, but you don't control the print version either as a town.
That-
So the cost associated with printing, if 50% of people sign up for online version, it would be 50% cost because you can only then print and send out the ones that are paper.
Are you gonna add to this
I'm going to
conversation?
add to that conversation, yes. A survey was done when Linda Rousseau stepped down as head of the Brentwood newsletter. It went out to all residents. Only 4% of residents wanted the online version. The other 86 or 96% wanted the print copy.
What year was that?
That was 2018, 17, 18.
Yeah. Well, I think we got a lot of new the world has changed a little bit, you know, so
Okay.
we might.
There's no time to do a survey now for
Well,
the
it
January,
can be
February,
done,
March
it can
issues.
be done in February, I'm not talking about January, February, and March.
Well, we're talking about January, February, and March. We're not talking about next year.
Yeah, that's what the discussion is right now.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
okay. So,
I don't know, what are your thoughts? I mean, is it gonna be tight to try to absorb these, or what? I mean, we're doing the budget, so I think we're trying to keep it as tight as possible, so. But we did commit to those three issues.
We committed to level funding the three issues. We did not commit to,
well, there's been increases in cost that we had not anticipated.
I mean, that's a very dramatic increase in cost, and the idea that now we have to bear, the town has to bear 100% of the cost rather than 70% of the cost is also, I find, slightly disruptive.
Mrs. Leo, we'll get to you soon.
The other issue is that when you sign an advertising contract, like, you don't, if something doesn't get published, you don't lose your money. It's just, you make a commitment to pay for something that gets published. It doesn't get published, you don't, you know, so the idea that an advertiser is going to choose to not make an agreement seems off to me, because you get what I'm saying, right?
I
You say,
understand what
I'm
you're
gonna pay you $100 once my ad goes up, okay, my ad didn't go up, okay, I'm not gonna pay you $100, I mean, that's just, that's all.
Okay, all right, so we have a motion to expend the $1,869. Do we,
Or add it to the,
Add it to it.
Additional 1,000.
Right. So do we have a second?
Are we opening the budget? We gotta open the budget first.
make a motion to reopen the budget.
Okay. We have a motion to reopen the budget. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
We have just reopened the budget.
No, it's just my vote.
Okay, 3-1, okay.
And then I'm gonna make a motion to add the $1,869 to the, what'd you say, it was 31,537? So what's the new number?
33,416.
That is the new numbers.
33,416.
Okay.
So I make a motion for the 33,416.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Aye. The motion passes. We will add $1,869 to the budget for a total of $33,416.
So that'll have to go back to the budget committee.
Right. Now we have to deal with the,
Warrant.
did you wanna let Ms. Leo ask her question first, before we move on?
sure, Miss Leo.
Over the summer with the town meeting that we had at the rec complex, you had talked about getting a contract with the Brentwood newsletter.
That's coming up right now.
Can I finish before you interrupt me, please?
Mrs. Leo, I'm trying to be very polite. Please continue.
It has not been brought up at all in any of these talkings. The giant increase in the cost of printing, we, as a town, we should be able to see the receivables for what they actually got charged for that. Have anyone seen that? Because I'm sorry, as someone who's done some advertising in the past and done a few printings of things, it doesn't add up. You guys made a commitment to the town committee, to the town members during that meeting to put together a contract, not a warrant article, a contract with the town and Brentwood newsletter stating what we would be getting as town members for what we are providing them for a payment.
Okay. I know you're not privy to our notes, but the very first note is the BNL contract. That will be discussed now. Remember we spoke last?
Okay, and I had sent a letter to the entire board, including Karen, about the newsletter, and I didn't get a single response. As a chair, it would be very much appreciated if you respond
at least acknowledging that you have received a correspondence with your town people.
Okay, I'm late, but we are now responding. We received your email, and I addressed it with you last Wednesday night at the budget committee, that we would be addressing it tonight.
You addressed that you would be addressing it tonight, and you had said that you had stopped the talking of it because not everyone was here, and I'm
That was
sorry.
last Tuesday.
I know, but.
And then on Wednesday, he addressed it again when we were at the budget committee hearing. And then
But you
your,
guys
your
still have
email,
not-
your email was in our notes for tonight.
But you still have not, before you even got to this point, there should have been a contract that the
The
town.
contract that was discussed at, number one, we talked about making the Brentwood newsletter go on as a warrant article, and we're still committing to that we're doing a warrant article. That's something that's gonna be coming up tonight. One of the things that is on here is for a B&L contract that's in our notes. So I appreciate your concern for wanting to direct how we have a discussion around the Brentwood newsletter, but
My-
unfortunately, you can't control the timing of how we discuss it in the context of a meeting. Does that make sense?
My concern is that you guys made this commitment to the town.
We didn't
and
make a commitment to do the contract. We made a commitment at that meeting to put the warrant article forward for the Brentwood newsletter.
Hey, Bob, can I
Sure.
jump in? Hey, Kim, give us 15 minutes, and if you have more comments after we're discussing this portion, then bring it up again, okay?
Okay. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay, now we're ready to talk about the warrant article and the contract for the newsletter. Comments?
I think I know last week we talked about doing advisory. Karen, how did you word it for an advisory on the,
Well, so there's two separate points I think you need to address on the newsletter. One is to appropriate the funding from April through the end of the calendar year. That's what the townspeople chooses to do. And then I suggested a separate warrant article last week to see if.
Karen, can you speak up a little bit, please?
If the townspeople wanted to see the warrant article come back in '23, or if they wanted it put in the operating budget for '23.
right?
That
and-
would be advisory only.
Right, so then my thought would be, since we're doing an advisory to see if we wanna put it into a budget, I don't know if you have to do a separate advisory warrant article, or can you do in that same one warrant article, if they would do the contract?
Well, the contract is separate from,
But so would you do a warrant article to say, does the town want us to do a contract, or how do you wanna do that?
we have to do a contract. We're getting a service, we need to know what we're paying for. If Rec's not getting articles published, that's wrong. If we're not finding out what our advertising money is, we should allow no advertising, and we should just fund
The whole
the
thing?
whole thing.
Okay.
We need to, there should be a, you know,
Where can you sign up for a newsletter?
there should be a term of, like a
Condition.
request for proposal, like, when we do,
RFP.
It should be.
when we have a lawn cut, we say how often we want the lawn cut, when we want it cut, how we want it cut. That should be no different than the newsletter. It's, even though it's volunteers, it's still a nonprofit.
It's not, this is, no, it's Nello.
This is-
It's a organization.
This is,
It's a nonprofit.
are we,
organization.
is this,
No,
okay?
no.
Yeah, okay.
So I couldn't agree more, and it has not, like,
Okay, stop agreeing and tell us what you want. Tell us what you want.
Whatever I want, as long as it's not strange words.
no,
No creations?
in all seriousness, we need to have transparent, like, it just needs to be a regular agreement, and I just agree with that, it
Okay.
has to be above board, because otherwise it seems questionable to everybody, to a lot of people.
Being you're the spokesperson for the BNL, do you agree with the fact that a contract is necessary? That's the question. It's either yes or no.
Are you asking my opinion?
Your opinion.
I was just,
As a representative of the
So
newsletter.
is there
Well,
anybody else here
What's in-
representing?
What's in the contract? How can you answer a question like that if you don't know what's in the contract?
We don't have a contract.
If the contract says that the BNL will produce 11 issues, they would do that.
Tracy, are you gonna be the spokesperson?
I can
You can,
participate.
you can be the
Okay,
spokesperson.
all right. You can
want her
take
to
the
sit up?
chair.
Yeah.
Either
you
or.
may have-
Okay. Seeing as how you have knowledge, I know your occupation, you're a
There's a
CPA.
lever under there
Yes.
if you want to use it. It'll keep
You
saying,
have to
it'll sink
stand
back
a
down,
little
but.
bit.
Yeah, you gotta
All
stand
right,
up
there you
to,
go. I just feel like I'm. Go
yeah,
ahead.
no, if you pull up on it, it just sinks, you gotta stand up,
Okay.
jack it up.
So you started to say the contract will include 11
11 issues.
issues.
That's generally been the norm in the past. They've done
Okay.
a 12th issue.
And,
But this year wouldn't be 11, because we're going from March to,
right, I understand that, okay. But we're just talking in generalities right now. The question was, we don't know the advertising dollars, and we would like to know that.
In the past 2 years, we were able to obtain 3,700, maybe 3,750.
No, yeah, and that was guaranteed that there would be 3 business directories
Right.
in a year. Because of the lack of funding that is not guaranteed until town meeting, we cannot go out and publish 3 advertising
That's right.
sections.
Okay, all right.
I mean, we'll do every effort. Again, it's volunteer, but now we're already behind because the advertising efforts would have already started.
Right,
Yes, most of the same people obviously we're gonna go back to, but it is volunteer and it's.
okay.
there's
Well,
lot
then
of
maybe
work
a
to get
statement that the advertising dollars will be be reported at a later date.
done. Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
What else, Andy?
some standard of what gets in and what doesn't, you know.
What they're,
that's all.
Well, I mean, if the
that's
rec
all-
director submits something, it should be in the newsletter.
Right, there was a couple of programs that Andy had submitted to the newsletter, and he received a response back saying that they wouldn't be published.
They do not, it says it right on the front, that we do not publish for paid services. That's what was not published in the newsletter. And Robin had responded accordingly multiple times explaining that. So for example, I'm not a gym rat, so pardon me. So if someone's doing aerobics at the rec center, I don't even know what they offer, okay? So if someone's doing aerobics and they're getting paid for that, Robin will promote it the first time, because it's a new instructor in town, and they might not even be from town, but a new service provided at the rec center, but it's for a fee. So she'll do it the first time, but she won't do it continuously when they said, oh, we're doing aerobics 2 this month instead.
So the
Because
program-
that's free advertising for someone that's getting paid, and that person that's getting paid might not even be from the town.
Okay.
So she chooses not to.
But you realize that most rec programs have a fee associated with the team association? Like we pay for the gyms, so that means it has to be offsetted somehow?
It's in, they have a budget for that.
These are programs that Andy's run for years. They offer the residents a discounted price in order to participate for these programming through the rec center, as opposed to going.
But it's an
to-
outside business coming in and just running that program at the rec center. So if I wanna do tax services up at the rec center, can I get a free advertising in there?
If you pay for the rental of the rec service?
but you wouldn't get the advertising on it.
I think it was a yoga program and a martial arts program, those are the two that were
Okay, all right.
the issue.
So
And
now,
now are those paid, so people take the yoga or they take the martial arts, they pay for,
Right, but they get a reduced price to pay, to take the
Through our rec.
program through our rec.
These are town
They're
services.
town
Like,
services.
This is a
They're
town
They're
service.
town-sponsored programs.
Yeah, but we say visit the rec,
We're paying the
it says
towns.
go look at the rec website or
one second.
whatever.
The townspeople are paying a lot of money for this newsletter. Like, the town, I know
we're paying
that
a
there are
dollar,
certain people.
$1.08.
What's that?
We're paying $1.08 per article,
per service, or
per
issue?
month, per month.
That was a semantical argument, but
Well, I was gonna say, if you say a lot of money, I go, it's $1.08, it's cheaper than the coffee I just bought.
okay. Oh, we don't have to go that right now. I'm just saying, the rec center, people like to know what's going on there. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like,
And I agree with doing that. I guess it just depends on what their policies and procedures are.
Well, that's
I would
fine.
like to see maybe a link on there to say, here, click on this.
But that's
and
what
go
our
to
job
site.
is to set.
But we have Robin's opened that up, she advertises every month on she calls them every month, and there's a link, check out the rec center.
Can the, I guess that would be something that we'd have to look at, is as far as the agreement, I guess, as far as saying, if we have yoga or martial arts that's giving us a discounted price because they have a captive audience.
But if our rec director is
I would be
promoting
willing to
programming,
even-
I
I
don't
would-
think it's up to the newsletter to say, to cut that content. I think that's up to the rec director to put forward that content.
Yep.
And as the newsletter.
And we're
the
basically
content-
paying for that anyway because it's in the cost of our,
Right,
I
and so
see
they
that.
get a reduced fee in order for him to promote that program. I think the service that you'd be providing is whether, is format, it's layout, it's
right,
grammatic. It's not proofing the content necessarily.
right. It's
Or
just
deciding
making
which
sure that
programs go in
our,
or which programs don't go
our
in.
programs are basically advertised in that. Do we have a rec?
Or if there's a question, then I think that should come back to the town, and then the final say-so should get to the town. I don't think it should get to the newsletter to decide which programs go in and which ones go out. If there's an article to be mixed, then,
So they could put in like the rec corner or something like that, that basically
He has-
says, here's what we have going
he has
on.
a page, but
Right.
those programs were specifically.
He could put those in there and they just strike, are you guys just striking those off of the article?
I
or-
don't do any
Okay,
of
you
that,
don't do
so
the
I can't
editing,
answer that
okay.
question.
Well, that's what it sounds like. I mean, they're not being printed. So we have to come to
Well,
a,
one, there's limited space, okay, so it depends on what's being run for that specific month, so I do
Okay.
know that. But two.
let's
the
get
other
beyond
argument-
that. Let's talk about the residents who are paying the cost,
Mhm.
want to see certain things in there. And I know that Robin has been very faithful to tell us that every article in there is a submission by a resident. So when the rec director sends something to you, then that should be automatically honored, because he is a town employee and he works for us.
Giving a town service.
That makes sense to me.
I-
And I think that
okay.
would be something that we should discuss.
As your group.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
Mhm.
property
I
is
agree.
a group.
all right.
I mean, I
Any
can't
other
answer
caveats that we're looking for?
What about you were saying something about standards?
Just,
Whose standards?
Yeah, I think, let's keep my mouth.
Well, you're here for the
Just a
newsletter,
moment,
so-
we'll get to you. You're talking about journalistic standards.
no, I'm just talking about standards of what the newspaper should include. What are we getting for our money?
14 pages a month.
11 times a year.
Is there something specific?
Do you want a list? We could look at the Brentwood newsletter and break it up into each page, what normally is on this page, and this page, and this page. We could do that. We could provide that detail if you'd like it.
So generally, you'd have information on elections, trash and recycling, recreational sports and programming, historical society, school district updates, and local news. Did you want to include something separate?
Police and fire are included there as to, there's an entire list of groups in town that are reminded every month, this is the deadline for your submission. Churches, if they do not submit in a timely manner, that has to be considered in the production.
We understand
The 15th is the deadline. It has to go to the printer that Friday afterwards to give time for the printer to produce it. Then there's a production schedule for mailing and labeling. So everyone is reminded every month. If they don't submit, if they're candidates and they don't submit after a reminder, she can only publish what is submitted to the newsletter. in a timely
I think
manner.
we have no problem with
Yeah.
any of that.
Yeah.
The thing is, we've had some rejections from the rec department, and I feel very strongly that they should be included.
We can,
I think
We
that should be addressed, and
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Okay,
Not that I carry a lot of weight, but I'm in agreement.
okay. We haven't addressed your weight yet.
Well, thank you.
Don't trust mine.
So, what is,
My other issue would be, do we wanna have editorials as part of our town-funded newsletter? Or do we wanna
No.
just have,
Okay. I remember why this all started. I was here that night, and I've been called a lot of things since that night, and some of them are not right. But I don't think editorials should be included, personally, because it is a form of information. I know we have the First Amendment and all that jazz, but this is a very, very small community, and we should address community issues. Yes, ma'am?
As you know, I produced a list when this all started of the topics that have been covered in editorials since 1978.
I remember.
And it has included everything from political issues, stories, discussion about what the selectmen are doing, to budget, to school budget, to things that are going on in the school, every political issue you can possibly imagine. And that has generated a lot of healthy discussion in town. They weren't always pleasant, they weren't always kind. If you remember Ike Cross, there was a lot of stuff that went in because he had his right to express his opinion. So this has been a part of a 46-year history of including opinions and editorials.
Well, we're at a new horizon right now, and this,
Whoa,
whoa,
whoa.
If I may,
I can address that.
Jim, we're not ready for you just yet. Go ahead.
I know that this is potentially shocking. I actually don't have an issue with editorials as that have to do with. Look, I mean, I've been thrown under the bus in the newsletter, right, a bunch of times. But it's about me, and I represent the town, or in one way or another. And I actually think that that's a healthy thing for a community. If I've done something wrong as a representative of the town, I think that and someone disagrees with me. Now, there are going to be people who agree and people who disagree. I'm actually okay with being held accountable as an elected there. What I don't think Brentwood needs is a Brentwood version of Fox News or MSNBC, like at the national, I think we got enough of it. We got it. But if we want to talk about how we feel about, Morgan's stupid statement about XYZ at last week's select board meeting, you know what? Like, okay.
The local news versus
I don't have I honestly don't have any issue with that if it's
Okay.
about
local.
local stuff. It's when we go way over the top outside that I just don't think it's helpful for the community.
Okay.
So that's my
I'm gonna talk to Jim first. Go ahead, sir.
Okay.
Conceptually, you are about to neuter the Brentwood newsletter because you are trying to enter into a contract to micromanage what you like and don't like. And as that changes and evolves, the selectmen are then going to further micromanage the newsletter. I understand that it's funded by the citizenry, but as you try to grab hold and do this contract, it allows you as the keepers to determine what you like and what you don't like in the newsletter, and that's detrimental to the health of what the newsletter represents to people and has represented to people over the years. So I'm against any type of government contract where you're in control of content.
So you don't like the part about the editorials, is what you're saying?
About anything, you're trying to micromanage the rec department already, just in conceptually, just trying to get a grasp on it.
Wait a minute. How are we micromanaging the rec department?
Well, you want to have the newsletter do the X, Y, and Z, and as something comes along that you don't like,
Well, the rec
That's the
department
controlling
represents the
entity.
entire town.
that's all.
Just one second.
Janice,
Janice?
we can see you back there.
So speaking in terms of the library, because we haven't mentioned that either, like the rec center, we are a town department. We are accountable to the town for every penny we spend. And, the newsletter, if it is being paid for by the town, should include the news from the library. That is one of our ways of making sure that our programs are full or being utilized, right, which would be a good use of the town's money. We have gone from over a page down to a half a page, which includes our programs, but no descriptions and no information, so it's just a calendar. In addition, I've had 2 complaints from patrons who always got their information about the library's hours from the newsletter. That's not being published anymore. So I'm just concerned as a town department that this be fairly looked at and made sure that if the town is gonna pay for a newsletter, that it's at least gonna contain town news. News that people have put budget money into, if you know what I'm saying, all right? And in December, the whole first page was about the poinsettia plant. Now, all that's beautiful and it's informative. We were cut to a half a page, so a whole page could be done on the poinsettia plant. So I think there just needs to be looked at, what kinds of things are being published and make sure that the town news is in there first and foremost. And then anything, whatever else, you know, is up to you, but, I just hate to see Rackham Library being,
Does the,
All right,
just a question,
thank you.
does the Brentwood newsletter, and you guys work on it, so you know more than I do, I don't know anything about it, but, do you guys have, like, group meetings where people can come to and discuss what they want with it, or how does that work with the volunteers? How do you guys do that? You guys have, what you said, 100 and, how many hours did you guys put in?
128, I think those are volunteer hours.
Yeah.
128 volunteers, estimated hours is 1,158. I'm assuming somewhere in there, you got 128 volunteers a year.
Every issue of the newsletter, or consistently, the newsletter is looking for articles of interest to the town of Brentwood. We would love, I'm paraphrasing, cover stories are always in demand, and there are people who submit wonderful cover stories, whether it has to do with the sportsman or someone climbing the Appalachian Trail. But if there's nothing that comes in that month, you need a front page story, and it's not gonna be the hours of the library or what the firemen are doing. You've gotta have content that is drawing interest to put on the front cover. We would gladly have front page stories of interest to the town of Brentwood, whether it's conservation or recreation or scouts. They've done Girl Scouts, but if you don't get a cover article, you've gotta put something in to feature that issue. Every magazine, every newspaper looks for cover articles or cover stories. So if more people would submit, you know, there'd be great stories about what people are doing in Brentwood. The Boy Scouts haven't submitted an article in 2 years. We would love to have something about the Boy Scouts, but that's up to the volunteers or the people who run those organizations to submit something.
Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, so I guess it's a statement and a question. You all probably know, just another example to put on the table. I ran for office a couple of years ago. I sent in a letter that fit the standard length. My opponent's letter ran, mine didn't. I got a 2-line thing saying also ran. A couple of years ago, there was an effort through a warrant article to try and put some standards that would leave the editorial content with the people of the newsletter, but allow all the content that had been submitted to be shared with the board, so that there is a process for public disclosure. I cannot prove or show that I actually did that other than the email that I sent in. So I think there is a balance trying to be struck here. I'm not weighing in on whether it does or doesn't include editorial content. So that's my statement. My question is, Brentwood's the only town that actually, that I know of really, that has a relationship with an external nonprofit, not federal nonprofit, to carry out this function. And I guess my question is, why is it important to go this route as opposed to, you basically got a pool of volunteers that have been doing a good service for a long time, external but quasi external for the town, and that's where sort of I feel like all these issues have come from. Why not bring it in-house? Why not say, this is just a process of the town has a budget for printing and production, and a pool of volunteers on a committee create the content, as opposed to going through this contractual external process.
Lois?
Okay, the very simple answer to that is, we have to have an editor. Do you know who does, the volunteers do all the external stuff. Robin does 40 to 50 hours a month to put that news together. You're gonna hire somebody to replace her? You're talking about a, well, I don't know,
$25,000
$25,000 a year job.
plus benefits
Easily.
and, so you've got another
And knowing this
$50,000.
town, the way you people wanna spend money, that would probably be an option for you. You would hire someone on the outside, and you bring them in, and you pay all this money, they get benefits, they get all the things that the town.
And a car.
What?
And a car.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
we
sure.
give them the good ones, you know. But that is what you're getting for nothing. And she is doing all this work for all these hours. Ask Linda Rousseau, who started this, and I was on the original original newsletter. Ask her how many hours she put in, and she was producing 2 to 4 pages most.
Right.
Robin produces 14 pages. And even Linda Rousseau will tell you that we have the best newsletter in the state, because you look around. And the newsletters, all they have, and the other towns you're talking about, is tells you just meetings. There's nothing else. There is no personal intake, there's nothing like it. We have one of the very best ones.
So what I just heard was
Just a second, go ahead.
didn't we look at the other towns?
Yeah, we looked at Fremont.
And did we see anyone around that had a newsletter situation like ours where it was?
Like a subscription service?
No, Fremont does it quarterly, and it's just town news.
Is it,
I think
and is it done by the?
Editorials is no
13
opinions.
separate.
I think we did.
Please stand, we can't see you.
Hi, I have a question. You said that there's a lot of volunteers. Do you have a list of who the volunteers are?
Well, yes, but they told letters they do not do the right of putting it together. There's no other editor. She is, even the board, she is the only one that puts it together every single month for the last 4 years.
Okay.
But she would like to have other people volunteer because of everything that's gone on. She likes to put it together because that's her skill set. But she would love to have others contribute. Like the library, I'm new, people ask me and I say yes, so that's why I'm here. But the library,
Victim
come
of
up with
circumstance.
what you would like to have presented. And I don't think there's gonna be a problem
All
with
you
it.
have to do is get it to her.
Yeah.
No, but we do, and then she asked us to cut it down to one calendar.
Well, then let's work on that. Okay? Because it's.
Because I see great value in the newsletter. I said that last week, I'll say it again, and I'll say it every day from now to whenever. The newsletter is very important, but it is very important to get the town stuff out there, especially because you're paying with your budget funds for these programs. So you want to get as much.
Maybe someone
with.
Well-
Lois.
I'm sorry, what I'm
Can I
saying
gavel?
is, when I run a program at the library, for instance, and I pay money to run that program, I want to make sure that I'm using the best, or getting the most exposure so that I can make those dollars make the most sense. You know what I'm saying? I'm not talking about the price of the newsletter.
Right.
So I'm
Yep.
talking about a program that I might run. I want to make sure that it's out there, so I put it on social media, I put it in the newsletter, I put it in our newsletter. We have many, many sources. What people keep telling me is their number one source is the Brentwood newsletter. So I want to make sure that our information is out there so that the money I'm spending on these programs has the most impact, right? Does that make sense, Lois?
And one of the things that I think, Lois, one of the things that Janice brought up last week is she has a lot of patrons that don't use a computer. And they go to the library to read this written, printed newsletter.
Did she get lots of copies?
I do not, I used to.
She used to.
I had to ask for 2 in December.
You didn't get your-
I got obviously none this month, and in November I had to ask also.
And then you were close. She used to bring you piles. I know she did.
I know, but we're open, we've been open.
Well, that's-
And I've also offered to make copies if she sends me a PDF, but she won't do that. So she's really, it's tying my hands, and I would like to work with her to fix that.
Okay.
Rebecca?
Well, follow up on a couple of points. Yes, copies are tight because the population has increased significantly, about 40 people this year. So that cuts down, when she budgets per issue for printing and mailing, that impacts how many copies she can print. So we have been short on copies because of that.
Which is why I'm willing to
Right.
make copies. I
Yeah,
really
so
am.
we can talk about that. My second point, here's my midlife moment. Yes, every month, she acknowledges the people who do the folding and the labeling.
Yeah.
She names them, and she's very gracious about that. And she always asks for other volunteers.
And I volunteered 2 years ago and I never heard of it.
Well, if you're the person I'm thinking of, she did respond, but maybe with all the things that were going on, that message didn't get through, but she does respond. I can prove that. I'm sorry for that, if that was a mission
Sue,
or something, but.
Tomorrow at
she did.
4:30, if you show up, we'll use your
Yes.
service.
Yes.
I can't tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm booked solid tomorrow.
All right, Miss Leo.
So, I don't have a problem with the newsletter. What I have a problem with is, we don't have a journalistic standard. The thing, don't roll your eyes and start interrupting, please. I've let you speak. This summer, something was published as an editorial when it should have been an opinion piece. That, because it is not a stated statement by the town, supported by the town. It was a member of the town sending in their opinion. We don't have a journalistic standard for this piece that you're asking for town funding for. And yes, I would love to see more stuff from the rest of the town. There's no sign up or a way to say, oh, we are meeting on this day to do this. There's no way for the rest of the town who's paying for this
If you
service.
wanna participate in it, all you have to do
Then
is contact
How do
Rob
you,
and
there
Good
should be
night,
a sign
Chief.
up.
And
There should be a
submit
calendar
your-
saying, we are doing this. And if you want more people involved,
I believe that each one says everything needs to be submitted by a certain deadline.
right, but you say you need volunteers for folding, but there's never, where is any of that for the town members to help with some of this? You ask for volunteers.
All right, I think those are good points that need to be addressed.
And that should be.
I learned about the town folding by reading the Brentwood
Yeah, and
newsletter when I
that should
showed
be part
up
of
on
the
that.
contract that is with the town for what we are providing as town taxpayers for this service.
You ready to cut it?
Um,
Thank you.
Do you want me to cut it?
Oh, okay, Jim.
They ask for volunteers. If people don't volunteer and call and say, look, I wanna help, I don't,
Sorry.
if you don't call or send an email, say, I wanna volunteer, when do I show up? You're not gonna, you're not gonna know when.
I think the best thing I can put it, and maybe it's dating me, is when I used to watch Johnny Carson and he used to do the Kreskin thing.
Johnny,
I
who?
think somebody wants to volunteer to do that. I don't know that you wanna do it until you reach out, so ultimately,
We'll
that's
take
up to
one
them
more.
to do that. But
One more, Eric.
So much for your premonition.
I just wanted to circle back one more time on the comment I started earlier and maybe address something that's said after. I guess the question again is, if the town were to bring this in-house and just basically let it run the way that it runs, but a function of the town directly as opposed to a contract with an external nonprofit organization with its own incorporation. We heard that maybe the editor wouldn't want to do the volunteer work under that arrangement. I'm not really sure why. It may circle back to the underlying reason, which is the question of, what is it that this external organization is adding to the process of creating this newsletter? As a-
Sit down until you're called upon.
I was just raising my hand.
Thank you.
And just to finish the thought, this
I
is
love
still-
Lois, by the way, but she has to be
We all love
controlled.
Lois.
He is, man. That's what he does. He's
external organization is a separate entity. Has its own agenda, it has its own ability to act. We saw that last April, in the April issue that came out, where the funding was withheld, an issue was released that promoted the newsletter's perspective on what was being talked about at the next meeting after that. You know, again, with the content in it, not tied or encumbered at that point with, I guess, the perspective of the town.
Can I respond?
So I think
Yeah.
it should be, I guess the fundamental question, why is it important to have an external entity?
Well, and I'm gonna respond on this, because this is interesting, it ties into one of the discussions we had last week over the fire department. One of the problems that you run into there's a couple issues. If I bring it in-house, then I have expenses that go along with that, because what you do with like the fire department, for example, they used to have a bunch of volunteers, and one of the things that Chief Burt mentioned last week is he used to be able to, he'd have to kick people off the truck because he had so many people wanting to volunteer. In today's culture or environment or whatever is going on, and he doesn't have the volunteers anymore. Nobody's showing up. So one of the things that he's looking to is add 2 extra officers, so that way he doesn't have to worry about the volunteers.
Firefighters.
Why do we call them officers?
Because they don't carry guns.
Not awful officers. I'm a health officer, you don't have me. Well, I do
The
have a gun.
debate comes from that.
I do have a gun, so I'll take that back. But you can't get volunteers, and if we bring that in-house, it's gonna be kind of like what happened with our rec department. We used to have a lot of volunteering, and then it turned it from a part-time position into a full-time position, and now we have a bunch of stuff going on, and they still have hard times getting people to volunteer. And they do have people that volunteer for certain things. Kim, I think you volunteer for the ice rink thing, so, but it's hard to get volunteers. One of the things that Andy, I was talking to him earlier today, Andy at the rec, and he said that for 5-year-old and 6-year-olds, he actually couldn't get volunteers to coach, and he had to send out an email saying, unfortunately, we don't have any volunteers for coaching, we're gonna cancel the 5- and 6-year-old basketball. And then all of a sudden everyone was like, whoa, wait a minute, I want, little Johnny or little Susie to play. So therefore they came forward and volunteered. There's a benefit when you have a volunteer organization doing certain things.
Well,
And I
I'm
think
gonna
that's
go
the
to
problem
Lois
with coming
next.
in-house, is I think you lose that,
I thought Eric was the last one.
that ability
I changed my
to
mind.
step forward. So anyway, I'll leave it.
All right, Lois, come on.
Okay, I don't know exactly the number, it's about 2 years ago, this select board told the Brentwood newsletter, Robin ID, to become an outside corporation. That was the town's recommendation.
Because the newsletter was gonna go away, because Linda was stepping down, right?
That's correct. She did not do this because of any else. And I can tell you, probably without question, if you were to hire her for what she's worth, or bring her in-house and pay her, she'd take the job. And she'd be foolish not to.
All right.
You don't have to do that. We have the newsletter, and we have it.
Okay, Trudy's got the last word, go ahead.
Good, and it's from an historical perspective. You all know the book that we did, and much of the content of that was due to the archive on the Brentwood newsletter. I was recently with my husband at an historic New England property in New Ipswich, New Hampshire. That day, the New Ipswich, New Hampshire Historical Society was open. Charming building, former schoolhouse, wonderful artifacts from the 17th century and early 18th century and into the beginning of the 19th century. Their complaint was because there was no mechanism for recording automatically events, people, elections, historical moments in town. They have a gap in the history of their town from about 1910 to the present day, and there's no way they can reconstruct that because there's no archive of stories, testimony, diaries that they can use. We may lose the history of Brentwood if the Brentwood newsletter goes away.
Well, I don't think
Who
that's
else would want to
anybody's
collect
desire,
that?
personally.
It's just a point, it's just a point.
Okay, thank you.
I want to give the last word to my wife.
Okay, Raymond.
Isn't that how it always works?
Isn't it amazing?
Raymond, do you have anything else to say?
Fred, yes, I do. I'm trying to keep it to 10 seconds. I said this before on several occasions. I think that this is nothing more than politics.
I have written a couple of the nasty articles, the opinion pieces that showed up over the last year and a half. I don't think that the majority of this town felt the same way as a few of the politicians did, but apparently their noses have been out of joint ever since. So the articles that I wrote, the article that had to do with critical race theory, et cetera, good factual articles. I would recommend that everybody go back and read those things again to get a different perspective on where we are today. I think it is absolutely necessary to continue in the same vein that we've been doing. Anything else is an effort to control the content of the newsletter, and that is fascist. Thank you.
Opinion versus editorial. You wrote it as an opinion, not an editorial.
She made a mistake and she
Yeah.
No,
stated
they
it.
never apologized.
Yes,
Okay.
that she did.
He did it the right.
Back, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna take the meeting over.
You can see how dynamic this is at home.
Absolutely. All of your comments are appreciated, and Jim, I really wish to thank you for your comment.
So,
But the comments are now done. Go ahead.
so I guess it comes back to the board. Do you want to do the advisory request to keep it in the, well, we have to do three things, I guess. Number one, we'd have to do a warrant article for $10,650, is that the new amount? Or is that the change? Is that the correct amount?
Now, are you talking about for the first three?
Be
No.
8
No.
issues at whatever, 14, whatever
The
an issue.
16.2 minus the 14 whatever for 3 months.
Yeah, so
But
what
we,
would be
but we're
the
not,
new
we,
14,432.
why would we be doing the 8 issues? Why wouldn't we be making it so that we don't have the same, because we can't.
Because you can't.
No, you can't go beyond
Yeah.
January.
Okay, we found out.
You were stuck to
So
January.
what's the number?
So are you not accounting for any advertising?
No advertising.
Whatever this,
So then you need a warrant article for 11,781.
versus this 10,650?
Yeah, because 11,781 plus 4419 is 16,200.
So we need to do that, and then the other, so then we just have to, as a board, figure out if we're gonna do.
Well, the contract
The
is still
other-
on the table, whether we do it or not. is-
Right, so I'm just wondering if we do the advisory to see if we put it into the budget, or if we keep it, right? So we have to do three things, because then the next thing would be,
Okay.
do you do a warrant article to say, what's everyone think about a contract, or how do we do that?
I think the contract would be up to the select board to
Yes.
decide.
Once it's approved?
We need to have a
They're
contract.
gonna
I-
give you money, you just have to decide.
Right.
what you
If,
wanna
if I remember correctly, the overwhelming outcome of our meeting at the BRC was they wanted a newsletter, but they wanted some type of what they're
Agreement.
getting for their dollar.
Right.
An outline.
And that's why we came up with the warrant article. Okay. Now, the contract is still alive. I don't think we're gonna resolve it this evening. So let's work on the warrant article.
All right, so I think we should have an advisory
Well, let's do
more.
the
You
dollar
wanna do
one
the dollar
first.
amount, so that,
Well,
so I'm still worried
I
about
can't-
the advertising.
I don't feel comfortable, voting, giving my vote on a dollar amount without, like, it's very closely linked to the contract for me.
Oh, okay, well, let's,
I just,
you have your right, sir.
So, I guess my only thought is I would hope that if the warrant article passes, that there's some type of advertising dollars.
So
So
my
that's-
thought on that is to use, in December, they report advertising dollars, and that money comes off of the
Next year's.
next year's $16,000
I like that.
Sure.
figure.
So kind of like, that's the down payment, basically.
That would also cover the next 3 months' issues before the next town warrant.
I like that. That makes sense.
And then we have an actual factual reporting of advertising dollars,
Right,
and then we can use
that to
to
figure out.
adjust the next year's budget.
You
Does that
have to
make sense,
keep in
John?
mind that they're gonna make every
we're
effort for,
this is monthly, this is invoiced monthly.
Well, we're not even there yet, we're just talking about the advertising money.
The invoice issue is a non-issue. There will be an invoice,
Monthly.
monthly, right?
So, all right, so with that, I like that thought, because I was wondering how that works. So we would make, so the warrant article would be to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $11,781
For 8
For the-
issues.
for 8 issues.
Yep.
For the purpose of printing, postage, and distribution center, or distribution costs of the Brentwood newsletter. Majority vote required, all in favor. That's what we wanna have.
That would be the wording of the warrant article.
John's thought is that he, before we vote on the warrant article, he wants to work out whether we're gonna require a contract or not.
The problem is,
Because in my mind, I don't think that we can just continue to not a blank check, but cut a check without having a contract. Like, I just think the two go hand in hand.
yeah, I don't know if you're gonna be able to get, but you still gotta vote on that. Could you add in there,
Wait a minute, Jim.
could we add to the distribution center cost for Brentwood newsletter?
The contracted,
Well,
Between the
contracted
mutual-
services is what we're talking about.
With,
I don't think you
with
have
an
a
agreed
contract.
upon contract, I don't think you put that in a warrant article.
No,
can
you can't have that in the warrant article.
Cause it's just dollar, so.
But- The problem is if we come up with the contract and they don't like it, then we don't have somebody to do.
Well, the
newsletter.
contract will occur before the town meeting.
Right, I know.
Okay, so if they don't like the contract, then we can vote against the warrant article.
Well, you
and is this,
could
is
table
this,
the warrant article too, but.
when we had talked about an RFP, is that the path that you're going down?
No, because we wouldn't put it out to bid.
So it would just be the BNO right now?
Right.
Right, yeah.
But it should include some of the same,
Nuances.
yeah,
Okay, but the warrant article is a separate issue than the contract.
And we have to submit that by when?
February 1st.
John's saying he's not gonna vote for the warrant.
No, that's okay, I mean, we all have a vote,
No. Can I finish?
go right ahead.
If the idea of the board isn't to provide a contract. So the idea of what the contract is gonna sway his decision on how the vote is. And I would like to see the warrant article 4-0 rather than 3-1 when it goes to the voters. If that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, but at this point, not that we're at a terrible time crunch, but the contract was first discussed tonight for the very first time. Okay, I think we have some elements, and the invoice that John brought up is not an issue. Okay, so I think we're protecting the town funds, so I would like to see the warrant article moved right now.
I guess I would change the number to 11,781. And I like adding the 8 issues,
Okay,
to that,
you don't have an objection to that, do you?
cause that would be specific to the end of,
My objection is just money without contract, that's all.
I think we've solved that though. I mean, the contract will be presented to the BNL before town meeting, and if they reject it, then we vote down the warrant article.
or you table the warrant article.
If I don't know what the contract is.
We don't either.
No,
Yeah.
Do you want to have opinion pieces in the contract?
Do we want to
I
have
mean,
what?
in the newsletter?
Well, I think Ken said no, and I'm
no, I said I'm not crazy about editorials.
sorry,
Opinion articles or opinions are something different.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, I mean, editorials, to me, I think it's important to have an opinion in there. I don't think editorials are needed or warranted.
And I don't think we're suppressing or controlling.
Do they have to be,
But there was an argument on either side to have some type of opinion piece about town issues.
Yeah, and I think Linda used to do this before, where somebody would write something and then somebody would respond the next. If I remember correctly, that's how she would do it, so it was kind of always balanced.
Yep.
I kinda like that, cause I think it gives that dialogue, as long as it stays nice and not pissy.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what the purpose of an editor is, right? To read through that and make sure that it's not gotchas or tantrums or
Well,
whatever else you want.
What Linda would also do would be if an individual was named by name in a piece, that individual would be contacted so that they could respond
So it's
during
in
that, in that issue. And I mean,
Yeah,
to say that you'd have to wait a month to respond to something that's personally attacking you is,
Unfortunately, the
That's a
problem is,
problem.
if it's received the day of deadline,
Right.
no, I
There's-
missed the
You can't
then,
do
deadline.
that.
well
there's no
then,
way
well
somebody
then you
could.
gotta wait a month. Like that's, if there's no life or death urgency to a lot of the issues that.
But I think a lot of times, even if you read the Wall Street Journal or any of those articles, a lot of times there will be a piece in there, and then, yeah, the next time you turn around, you're like, hey, somebody responded to it.
Yeah.
And to me, it's kind of actually, I follow those because I'm like, I wanna see what happens next month.
Sure.
It's kinda like watching,
Those are-
reading a bad novel.
Those are actual newspapers with actual subscribers, not paid for by taxpayers, that come out on a daily basis. Like, not really fair to compare.
I think we're done with comments.
Yes, sir.
I just have a procedural question that may address Mr. Morgan's concern. If you approve the warrant article tonight and you proceed to attempt to negotiate and sign the contract, and for whatever reason it isn't signed, can you then hold the warrant article before it goes to the vote of the people? And if you can, does that address your concern?
I think you could table it, right?
Only if it's done before, February 1st is like the deadline, so
It could be tabled at town meeting.
You can
Yes.
table at town meeting.
it's still,
So the answer is yes, it
Yes.
sounds like. So that you're, because it's a reasonable point you make about spending money without whatever parameters there are going to be. If the board chooses to, if the contract is never negotiated, then the board does have the ability to table the warrant article.
Well,
I just wanted to make sure that it didn't just go through and then no ability to.
The legislators, it would be up to them
It would be up to them.
to table.
To table it.
I just wasn't aware of the procedure.
Yeah, so basically, typically what happens at a town meeting, someone's gonna make a motion, someone would second it, and then you could say, you know, like, I make a motion to table, you know, the newsletter warrant article, blah, blah, blah. Because of, we don't have an agreement, we don't have a contract, or whatever. And then somebody would second it, and then there would be a discussion, and then somebody would say, you know, usually the moderator, Doug or Dick Chamberlain would get up and say, you know,
Yeah.
all right, all in favor, all against?
So to me, then it makes sense to move forward with the warrant article, given that protection. Doesn't it?
How would we as a citizen know that the contract had been negotiated? Because it's the town members who are the legislators at that meeting, not the board.
Because the negotiation has to be a public
Yeah.
discussion.
Right, but the,
What the select board would say, would tell them.
It would be in our minutes.
And if you came to the meeting, you'd hear about it.
And videotaped
Yeah.
if Bob remembers to put the plug in the right hole.
You know, yeah, I apologize to everyone, I did not plug in the camera, so they heard volume, but they didn't see camera because I forgot to
Lois?
plug it in.
A point of interest, I don't know if many of you realize, Linda Rousseau did the newsletter for, I don't know, give or take 40 years. And then there were 4 editors after her, people took it over, couldn't handle it, backed out. In the course of 4 or 5 years, we had 4 editors. And it wasn't until Robin came along and took it over. It is not an easy job, and if you do what you're doing now, and you put restrictions on it, you put contracts on it, one, it's not the freedom of the press, and 2, you won't have an editor 10 minutes. Because then you're gonna have to pay the big money to hire somebody, because, like I say, we had 4.
Or it would be dissolved, like what Linda
They
mentioned
quit.
before.
They took it over, they couldn't handle it, it's just so much work.
All right.
So I'm gonna make a motion for the warrant article for the 11,781 even, right? Right, even?
Yes.
For the purpose of printing 8
Issues.
issues postage and distribution center costs for the Brentwood newsletter, majority vote required. All in favor? That's my motion.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed? The warrant article passes. And I think that we're gonna conclude business for tonight. I'm thirsty.
Do we have-
Trudy?
Do we have another public?
What happens now with,
We'll work on the contract.
Okay.
And we'll present it to
the board?
the B&L board, right,
Okay, and the timing on that is?
as soon as possible.
I think I would like to see recommendations from the Brentwood newsletter of what they,
You consider it?
like what type of parameters you,
I think it would be more important that you say what you're interested in.
well, you just heard the input from the town, so I would be interested in what you guys learned from this input. That's just
Like,
my,
what would you guys, we're willing to give you this, and these are what this is what we wanna outline. Our newsletter outline is gonna be this.
That's what you're saying, what you.
That's what I would like to know, cause then I can start saying, yes, I agree with that, and let's incorporate that into a contract.
Okay. We can-
It's a discussion, right? So if I don't start the discussion.
I think the board can gather, we can come up with something, they can say, hey, you didn't address this, then we go back and forth and we figure it out.
Negotiation, contract
Yeah.
negotiation.
Yeah.
That was
Did
my.
you
I love
guys-
negotiating.
So I can sort of put this together
Haggle all
over the
day long.
summer. If you guys.
It's been a lot of fun,
list
Lois.
all the departments that
It's interesting that
are
for
here, and then,
approximately $3,000,
and then I can
we
add in.
spent an hour plus on that, when for $1 million for a fire engine, it was a 5-minute discussion.
I'll add in my notes.
Sorry.
Just like the budget.
Just like the budget.
Yep.
Yep,
We quibble over 10,000 and pass 5 million.
yeah.
And when you
Okay,
people
do you
want
wanna-
your
do you
budget,
wanna-
your firemen
And
in
then,
the line items.
and then just send it to me?
No.
And then maybe to address some of those.
You-
other-
you
Well, we
order-
solved that problem
Yes, you did,
tonight.
that was terrific.
You know, you have your.
That's the right thing.
All right, so is there anything else to
Good or bad,
discuss?
it's the right thing.
Or don't have to do non-public? Anything else?
Nope.
Motion to
well,
adjourn?
let Karen finish what she's doing.
I'm ready to go.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Let Karen finish what she's doing.
Come a little closer.
Kind of crazy, so she has, I mean,
I'll stand still, I'll be all set.
You stand still.
That was not to discuss here, not to discuss here.
Thank you for
Good
coming.
night.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I just didn't know how it worked.
Jack, nice seeing you.
Whether,
Partially,
Yeah.
there's just,
I knew you would have known that.
well, yeah. I'd be happy to talk about it over coffee or beer.
Doesn't matter.
Good night, Sue.
I appreciated the input.
Thank you.
I'm on next week, so you know.
Okay. Thank you.
We won't do
Thanks for
anything
coming, I
about it.
appreciate it.
We won't do anything about it.
No, we're waiting for you
Waiting
to,
for you to stop talking.
Contact is a
Tomorrow, you
phone
gotta
or
sign
an
up.
email.
We're adjourned.
I'll give you
Sure.
I'll give
I adjourned, we haven't even voted.
All in favor?
I move we adjourn.
Second. Goodbye. Aye.
Aye.
Now we're adjourned. You can smack it all day long.
And
No,
are
I
you
enjoy
interested
smacking it.
in proofing, writing, or?